The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Welcome to Getting to Know You. My name is Joe Nash. Today we're going to be talking about a very special event we're having here at the library on Thursday night, December 18th, 7 p.m. with Barbara and Paul Richer. It's going to be an evening of Christmas stories, which I like to call a la the radio show, selected shorts. We're going to be hearing the stories out loud for adults. So Barbara and Paul, welcome.
Thanks
for coming.
Thank you.
Now, Barbara and Paul, in the past, you both work, but you're also actors in the community theater scene. Paul, you've acted in over 100 plays in your whole life, all over since the Navy days, since you were in the Navy. Nope. You've been in over 100 plays. Barbara's been in a lot of local plays, so you're going to be our readers. So why don't we start with, tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll talk about the 18th.
Okay. I wasn't in the Navy.
Oh, I thought you said.
No.
Okay, well then everything can start
Army.
now.
I got drafted. Okay, so I wasn't a super patriot. And actually, I did theater while I was in the Army.
Oh, in the Army, okay.
In the 10th Division Touring Theater in Germany. We did, probably while I was there, in that group, 5 or 6 shows. In fact, I was in a show that Barbara did later, The Rainmaker.
Okay.
And I got to play the male lead, and then I alternated with a guy, and I played the old father in it as well.
Okay.
So I've done theater since I was 12 years old.
And you've done theater. I was reading here, every place you've ever lived, you've been in little theater?
Yes, I probably have, if I think about it, three enormous passions in my life. The theater is one of them. The Boston Red Sox is the second, and the woman to my right is the third.
Very good. And
in that order, I wonder?
Probably.
Probably.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Barbara, didn't you say Navy before we started?
I did not say Navy.
I was telling you how I'm aging here. So now, what is your experience, Barbara, in the acting world in our area?
Well, I actually started out going to college thinking I was going to be just the most remarkable actress, just to set foot on the boards, and that didn't happen exactly, but I did keep theater as a wonderful avocation for myself throughout my whole adult life, up until a good 15 years ago now. I got involved in a lot of other things, and theater couldn't be a part of my life for a while, but did a lot of theater here in this area for many, many years.
And so if anybody watching, where would they have known you from? Where would they have seen you?
They went really back in time. Slingerland's Players, which was a remarkable community theater group in this area for a number of years. Albany Civic Theater, Schenectady Civic Theater, dinner theaters in the area. Back in the day when it was Empire State Youth Theater, I did a couple shows with them, and actually that's where Paul and I met at the Empire State Youth Theater.
Do they still have any dinner theaters? I haven't heard that term in a long time.
They do. I don't know about in this area.
No, I think they
really
do.
Been out of touch.
There's still people doing it, and because they're not advertised, they're doing it for somebody else as a fundraiser.
Oh, yes.
You probably don't even hear about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now on the 18th, you're going to be reading some Christmas stories. I'm going to say we have some authors: Truman Capote, Dylan Thomas, O. Henry, and a few other surprises, and of some poems. What have you, as actors, obviously you're in plays, have you ever done anything like just a reading before? I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
And how was that differ?
Well, I told Barbara some stuff. When I was an undergraduate at the University of Iowa, there was a fad where students who were working on their masters or their doctorates were combining literature with music or literature with art. And I got to read wonderful stuff. I was a reader because I was an actor at Iowa. So I did a lot of that for 2 years. and read some stuff that's where I first met Dylan Thomas.
Oh, okay.
I did Fern Hill as a background for one of the readings.
Okay, so one of our stories on the 18th is by Dylan Thomas. So you actually, now was he the character that they say he was?
Yes, and he toured the world. He's one of the poets who probably became a public figure. And he toured the United States extensively, doing readings, had a remarkable voice. And of course, he was speaking Welsh, which is similar
So
to Irish. And my instinct is maybe we might read that story with a little Irish brogue.
Okay, and I think he was one of the first people to really popularize poets going around giving readings.
Exactly,
Oh, okay.
exactly, yeah.
And then reading out loud, was it just like you're going to be doing on the 18th, just in front of an audience? Was that when you were saying you read?
Some of it was recorded. A lot of
okay.
it was recorded because it was going to become somebody's doctoral dissertation.
Oh,
So it was more recorded.
okay.
And I'm trying to think if we've done any presentations. Well, no, we have. We just read
Going to tell.
a story at our 150th birthday. We just had our 150th birthday in July. I'm 50, she's 100. And we wrote a story based on travels that we made to Norway, and we read it to the probably 100 people who were there at the party, and we read it aloud in front of an audience.
Okay,
It
good.
was actually, I was going to mention that as soon as Paul stopped talking, but it's really hard to get a word in edgewise there. But we did write the story about a trip to Norway, about the Trollveggen and trolls, and we had our grandchildren, 11 grandchildren that we have. The story was essentially about them and what wonderful people they are, but they took on the guise of being trolls. And that's the first actual public
Yes.
reading that
Now,
I did.
were all 11 there?
Yes.
Oh, that must have been
Yep.
great.
And
Everyone
all the
was
kids
there.
were there except one daughter who lives in Norway.
Actually, yes. All of our children, all of our grandchildren.
Okay. So now we had to whittle down our stories we've chosen for the 18th here in the library, 7 o'clock. We had to whittle them down from a lot. So there was a lot to choose from.
Yes.
Christmas has its own literature, I think. But one of the stories that you're going to be reading, is A Christmas Memory by Truman Capote. I think we all agreed that was a really,
I love all the stories that we're reading, and I must say it was very hard not making this an 11-hour evening of story telling. There are a lot of really wonderful stories about Christmas if you're just going to do Christmas. And we read many stories, and I was sad to have some of them not be able to make the cut this time. But the Truman Capote, we really wanted to hold on to, and it is quite a lovely story.
Now it is called A Christmas Memory. It's of course it's been filmed and broadcast and recorded. It's been staged.
Yes,
There's
yes.
a lot of versions.
Yes.
I don't know. Are you familiar with any of them?
I
or-
had not
None.
seen any
I think
of
that
them.
would make your reading better.
Yes, no, of course.
We had not seen any of them. I was not familiar with it at all, and I was a little put off when I realized that it had been so much
Yes.
done. And I hope that it's not something that everyone is very, very familiar with and somehow expects it to
Okay,
be
well,
the same.
If you haven't seen any versions, maybe it's not as
No, and I don't share the concern that Barbara has if they know it. The story has power by itself. And if we do it the way we're going to do it, the people will, I think, get something out of that.
Okay.
My own instinct about what we did in terms of selecting, whatever we were reading had to move me. If I wasn't moved by it, I was going to veto it.
Okay.
Well, I think that's
That's a good
I think that's a simple and straightforward thing. I'm not going to read something that I didn't like, even if I thought the audience would go nuts over it. I wasn't going to do it.
Oh, very good. And for this one, are you going to be reading it together, or is one of you reading, or have you? Because I know there's two voices kind of in it.
There are two voices in it, and we're still working on it.
Okay.
We each have a notion, and I think we'll just wait and let people be surprised.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And then
You know the two voices. a little boy,
Yes.
an old lady.
Yes.
Okay, so you could tell if we were going to do two voices, I'm going to play the old lady.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, I didn't. Oh, that's good that you don't know any versions, but
None.
And then the Dylan Thomas, it's called
A Child's Christmas in
A
Wales.
Child's Christmas in Wales. What can you say about that? You said you mentioned
Just really what you just said, it has had a remarkable life. Again, I've never seen any of it. At one time I had a recording of him reading it. I don't recall it terribly well, but I loved it. But there's a play out now. Somebody's doing a tryout for a
Really?
play version of it.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
No, I don't know it either.
Well, this one, of some of the ones I suggested to you guys we were reading, I think this one was your idea, right?
Yes,
I think- okay.
yes.
And-
It's a very affecting story, and it's funny and clever, and where he takes you is terrific. It's just, I think what it will do, because of what it did for me, since I think I'm like everybody, is that the quality of his memories of that village and growing up will remind people of the quality of the village that they grew up in.
Okay.
That his memories, they won't have the same memories, but it will prompt them, I think, to go back in time.
To look back.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was reading a lot of these Christmas stories, we're trying to decide, or I was recommending to you guys, but
Right. Because you were our director and producer.
Christmas does involve a lot of memories. So I mean, it's,
Oh my gosh, yes, it's not. I don't think it's possible to, whatever you do with your tree or whatever you do with those ornaments when you open them, it's not possible to even begin that process without bringing with you all
I mean,
of
I
the
know
holiday Christmases that you've had beforehand.
in our family, we still have some of the ornaments from when we were kids. There were 6 kids in my brothers and sisters, and we still can look at these, and it's like it evokes something.
Yep.
Remember,
Yes.
and it's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And so many Christmas stories seem to be about the past.
It is a holiday of memory. It really is a holiday of memory. And what you're doing is making a new memory, but you don't do that without bringing forward the ones that you've already experienced.
And then speaking of memories, one of the things that you're going to be reading, I think Barbara's reading, a very famous, I think it's pretty famous, a poem, a long poem, A Cup of Christmas Tea.
Yes.
Even it's a bit on the sentimental side, but I think it does get you.
It is a bit on the sentimental side. And I actually gave this book to my mother, who's now passed away many years ago, and I have that copy now in my house. It's a lovely poem, and when I first read it, I thought, maybe it's just a little too lovely. Maybe that's not what we're shooting for. And then, in the scheme of things, when we brought it all together, it just really fit nicely in that niche. So it'll
Paul,
be a cup of Christmas tea.
Have you read this poem? Do you?
No, never read it, don't want to read it. I'm going to hear it the same night that the audience does.
Okay, good for you. How you going to be rehearsing without him?
Our house is large enough that I'll be
Yes.
downstairs, he'll be upstairs.
And then another work that you're going to be doing is, of course, probably the most famous work is The Gift of the Magi, the famous O. Henry story. And
I think that's probably one of the ones that the audience will be remember most.
Oh, I think so.
I
yeah,
think
no,
so. But it's lovely and it works, and it's the she cuts her hair
yes,
and he sells his watch, and
what it will remind, we hope, the audience of is the real meaning of this holiday. That it wasn't the gifts, because it's not the gifts, it's the giving to the
Yes.
person that you care about. And so that's what this whole story is. It starts off with, if I could just buy the right thing, it'll be perfect. And in the end, that matters not at all.
I know that.
it's really giving of yourself that's going to make the difference in that story.
Now, and is that one? We don't want to give everything away, but is that one? Is one of you going to read it, or are you going to do it both?
No,
Two
I'll
different
be.
voices.
I'll just be
That's
reading
hers.
that.
You're just going to read, okay, you can just read that one. So you guys were involved in theater as actors, and it's not really a theatrical thing you're going to be doing, but it's similar in that there's going to be a shared experience live with an audience. The story, a play is like a story. Why do you think the power of that is? Because I know I love going to theater. I like to listen to audiobooks. I like going to things like, I've been to readings. There's something about everyone being together as opposed to watching something. That
We live in a time where the connection to live people is diminishing. Okay? Increasingly, almost everything is on film or in a little box that you hold in your hand.
Absolutely.
And the power that exists both with the audience, and I'm more familiar with it when you're on stage and there are live people out there, is a power that transcends in a way you can't even describe. Film or taping or what you hear, just the connection to another live person. So I'm looking forward to it from that perspective. It's not theater.
yes, but it's
It won't be as powerful
But it's
for me
similar.
as theater, but the connection that there's going to be somebody live out there,
Yes.
and I'm going to say some words up here, and the connection is what you want. You want to somehow take those words, bring them to the person in the audience, and touch them.
I think that's what it is too in that last word, and touch them, that Paul just said. It's the intimacy of sharing that story. I enjoy listening to selected shorts, and I love audiobooks. They're in my car all the time. But to be able to share a space with an audience and to speak these words that someone has written, what you hope to create is an intimacy, a shared intimacy
as
between
opposed to
the
just
two
sitting
of
reading
you.
it by yourself.
Yes, you want to reach out and share intimately with them what this reading, because it has something special and wonderful in it. And it's like if you're reading to your children or you're reading to adults, you're sharing, and it's something that this world right now is sorely in need of. I think is that intimacy, that connection.
I know. It seems like when you're kids, you love to be told stories, but then I guess you get to be a certain age.
You think you grow out of it.
Yes. Although I found some articles I was reading. This seems to be coming back. This sort of reading out loud with groups of people. I don't know if you've. Do you read out loud at home to each other?
Yes.
Yes.
See that?
Yes. Yep. We go through periods of time where I'll do a poem and she'll do a poem in the evening, 10 o'clock at night, as a finale to going to bed. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
That sounds very nice, actually.
It is.
Well, when you were both doing theater, did you work together at doing your lines?
We were
Or-
lucky.
That must be kind of,
We did several plays together, and while we always learned our lines pretty much separately, once we had them there, we spent quite a bit of time as the characters with each other.
Yeah, we met in the theater. We were doing St. Joan for the Empire State Youth Theater. I was brand new in town. I'd only arrived maybe 6 months ago, and I saw this tryout, and I went, and there she was. And that's 30 years ago, or what, 35 years ago?
35 years ago.
this is the Empire State Theater over in Troy, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You met with the theater. So
Yeah, we
theater,
met, and we've done a lot of theater together. We started a little group called Benefactors, and we've done 2 or 3 shows to raise money for a charity.
Oh, okay.
So we have a shared
Is
history.
that group still active? I was reading. I didn't mention that, but is that group still active? The benefit.
It was basically Paul and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an ad
were the
hoc group.
It was, the fortunate thing was that we always got to choose our own charity.
Oh, okay.
And we got to choose the play. So it was a terrific endeavor, and we did raise money for 3
charity.
charities that we believed strongly in, and we stopped doing that. I think I went back to school. Life begins
okay.
to intrude,
Yeah.
and we just haven't done Benefactors in a long while now.
All right. So this was a while ago. You're saying over. Okay. I don't remember that group. I always think of what you were saying before about the intimate experience. I always think of theater as sort of like going to church in some kind of wacky, weird way, because church is all live. It's all people. It's sort
theater.
of a, what?
It is a piece of theater.
I think you could say that. Yeah. Okay. So we've mentioned. And then we're going to have one other work that we're going to be doing. I don't know how much you want to say about it now, but a poem that Paul, you have written. I think you wrote it many. I have it here. You wrote this many years ago.
Well, I can tell you when I wrote it.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about?
I took my family, at that time was not Barbara, but my wife. Barbara was my second wife. My first wife had passed away. My wife and my 6-month-old child to West Africa, to Nigeria. And I was a teacher there. And in the late fall and early winter of 1959, somebody will have to do the math, away from home, the second Christmas away from home. First Christmas, I don't think we knew what we were doing. I wrote a long poem called The Birth. And I dedicated it to my grandfather-in-law, who was a fundamentalist preacher. And so you have to understand I'm Jewish. And so my entry into that family was complex. And I wrote it, and this will be the first time that I've ever read it aloud outside of the family.
Okay. Oh, so you have read it
Oh, of course, yes.
The family, okay.
Yes, I burden the family quite often.
Now, and the copy I have here, it does definitely look like it was typed on what maybe some younger people watching, it's called a typewriter. It looks.
That's exactly right. Yes.
And you've kept this all these 1959. You wrote this.
Yes.
Okay.
So whatever that is.
All right.
That's part of the original copy.
Okay.
But we copied it for you, but
55 years ago.
Okay, wow. I was, in 1959, I would have been like 3 years old, I think.
yeah, I wasn't born yet.
Well, so that's going to be December 18th, Thursday night here in the library, 7 p.m.
And a wonderful intermission with
Yes,
refreshments,
we're going to have
too.
refreshments at intermission. I think, anything else you want to say about what people will be expecting? Or I think we've covered a lot.
I think if they just come looking for a gentle, happy, shared evening of fun and holiday stories,
Holiday
they won't be
spirit.
disappointed.
Okay, very good. I think in the kids' room they'll be doing How the Grinch Stole Christmas or something. I'm not sure. But these stories are they will be for adults.
For
and
adults.
So for those of you that like, theater or stories out loud. Is that it?
Please
Yes,
come. Come
One
and
other thing,
enjoy
though,
it.
you keep saying adults. Any kid from junior high on up
That's true.
would enjoy the evening immensely, and it might open up something for those kids that they have never seen.
That's true.
And so if you got junior high, middle school kids, high school kids, bring them along. Even if they hate it, they'll get something to eat. So.
That's right. Okay, well, actually, the O. Henry story, I think kids probably, I think they still have that in school.
We have two elementary age grandchildren still, and they've already told me that they're probably going to come with their mom and dad because they really want to see Nana and Papa and what they're going to do. And I think that's fine. I don't think you're really ever too young to come to a reading.
And actually, the relation in the Truman Capote story, the relationship between Buddy and his aunt. His aunt is very his
cousin.
It's very touching.
It's
I think.
beautiful.
Absolutely.
And then it's I always feel bad for Truman Capote. Sometimes everyone knows him for In Cold Blood, but if you know his work before that. He wrote these really beautiful short stories and a couple of short novels that are really, and Breakfast at Tiffany's is totally different than the movie, I should say, because if you ever read that. So.
That story is lovely, and we'll start out with that one. That really is it was a special find to me. We all three instantly agreed on that one.
Had you not read that before?
I had not read it before. I'd not seen it or
excellent.
anything,
Very
so
good. Okay.
I think it was a good find.
All right, so we will see you on December 18th.
Yes,
Barbara and Paul, thank you so much for coming.
look forward to it.
And then I'll just say it one more time, December 18th, 7 p.m. here in the library, an evening of Christmas stories with Paul and Barbara Richer. So thank you.
Great.
And we'll see you next time on Getting to Know You.